Sakshi.
Hi, Priyash.
Sakshi, thank you very much for joining me today to talk about your application journey with LilacBuds. Let's get started by, you just giving a quick introduction about yourself.
Okay, so currently I am enrolled in a dual degree, MBA Tech Data Science from NMIMS Mumbai. And I am here for I want a consultation for an entrepreneurship program. So that is why I chose to join LilacBuds and take consultation.
Okay, but why did you decide to even look for a consultant in the first place? What about this application when you thought about starting your applications abroad? You're not sure about your destination, probably at that point in time. But beyond that, like there would have been other questions in your mind that would have made you seek for help. What were they?
So majorly, I wanted to seek a consultancy because I was not sure where to apply, which region, and firstly to shortlist my profile based on my needs. I have seen agencies which have tie-ups and they are particular. They have good tie-ups with other universities, etc. But I wanted something which is specific to my profile. So I was just looking out for agencies, and then I came across LilacBuds, and that is how I went forward with it. And it was also regarding my own decisions. I was confused in terms of everything in general in the beginning.
So what about like the other agencies that you spoke with and us that you kind of felt was a better fit for you, right? Like there would have been something in the first
Right.
conversation that would have given you more comfort around making this decision to work with us. What was that?
So when I spoke to other agencies, I felt that I am a marketing student. I did my MBA in marketing, so I know when there is a salesman talking to me like a salesman and not an actual consultancy. So I could feel that push. I don't know if normal people do that as well, but I could feel that they are pushing me towards them, and it was just not the vibe. So when I spoke to LilacBuds, it just clicked because there was no certain push. You all were just there to guide me and not to sell me a product or package. So that is what stuck with me, and I thought I would go
Good. Thank
forward
you.
with it.
Thank you so much for mentioning that. And that is exactly what our ethos is first start with supporting the student and not start with pitching the student anything.
Exactly.
That
Yeah.
that was very critical because everybody comes with questions, everybody comes with
Right. And it
doubts
is
about their own
very, yeah, right.
capabilities, doubts
Of
about
course.
the process, doubts about whether I can make it, and rather than calming the nerves, pushing them into thinking about let's start something, it's probably a little
Yeah.
too quick at
And
that
it
point.
is very easy to get confused in the beginning with the wrong agency. It is
Yeah.
because you are all over the place, and as you mentioned, nervousness.
Yeah.
So,
But now you worked with us for 6, 8 months. So talk a little bit about the experience of making that shortlist, starting to think about which schools to finalize,
right.
and the final list that you eventually prepared, maybe.
So we began with shortlisting my profile, and even before that, I think I used to talk to Washi, and she majorly asked me what my goals were, and I think she must have noted it down and then forwarded it to you when you were assigned as my mentor, and we shortlisted my profile. You actually gave me a holistic review of my profile before the schools did. You mark down what the strengths and weaknesses are for me, where I can go forward with, which schools are fit for my profile and which schools are not. I think we also did a R&D. We looked up LinkedIn profiles of peers from the universities. So you were open to my ideas first, and then you just guided me in a particular direction. I used to come with you with my research, like the XYZ schools. For example, I wanted to go with HGC first, and we did research on how it fits me, whether I should apply to that school or not. And then it was also regarding which region to apply into. I was keen towards France, and you also suggested I should not ignore UK. It has amazing schools, Imperial and UCL, other amazing schools that you suggested. And so when I came in, it was a rigid mindset that I will only be applying to France. But look at how it has turned out. It's 360. I am going to US now. So you helped me see where my profile fits, and not where I think I should go. So I cannot hear you, Priya. Sorry. You are on mute. You are on mute.
Oh, sorry, I remember
Yeah,
that first conversation where you said that the first five, six schools that you will apply will only be in France, and France is like
yeah,
where I
right.
want to go, and
I
I know a
could see
little
the
bit of
horror on
French,
your
and
face.
maybe that's where I see
Yeah,
my life and things like that. And yeah, I
yeah,
remember encouraging you, like at least, maybe we need to
right.
hedge our bets a little bit because you're applying to eight, nine schools essentially. Then you need to kind of to think about at least a few
Yeah,
outside France because outside the top five, six, it won't really make a lot of sense. So share the
yeah.
list of schools there. Share the list of schools that you applied to for
Right.
everybody to know.
So, we applied to HEC, EM Lyon. Then I think there was Imperial, and then this was all in UK, Edinburgh. And then there was also we were also supposed to apply to Erasmus. We had shortlisted it, but then also Schema
Schema.
and
Yeah,
then University of San Francisco and then Brown University.
correct.
Yeah,
And Schema was the Berkeley program. So the
right,
UC
right. The
Berkeley tie
Berkeley
program.
program. Yeah,
Correct.
right.
Because you gotta
Yeah.
admit that that's most important.
Yes,
That's
yes,
why I'm
yes,
bringing
yes.
it up. That is not just
Yeah,
Schema, it
the
was
Berkeley
France and
program.
US
Yeah,
combined into one
science
for you.
schools, yes.
So with all these admits, of course, you had three admits, right, so far. Uh,
Right. Yes.
so
Two for now.
two for now.
Or yeah,
USF and Schema plus Berkeley, that
Emma plus
combination. And we're still awaiting the
yeah,
decision from Brown at this point in time.
yeah.
And
And Edinburgh.
and Edinburgh, yes. And HEC was a no at the moment. Emilion also was not.
And also Imperial.
Imperial
Yeah.
was a no, yes.
Imperial HSC and EM Leon was no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, given that you were
Right.
applying for a master's in entrepreneurship, you had, which is a very unique choice, by the way, to all these
Yeah.
programs. Most of your program choices were entrepreneurship, innovation, management oriented. You already had an MBA kind of degree already at that point in time, but you were seeking something specific from these programs. Share a little bit about
Yes.
that. What were you seeking through the entrepreneurship program? What kind of readiness you wanted for yourself from a goal, like a long-term goal perspective?
So I do not come from a family which is very business oriented, and MBA gave me a way to think of how businesses work. But I lack knowledge in applying those points, how to scale my venture or how to actually build my venture. I can also learn all of this from YouTube. But for me personally, a degree program is where you build network. And throughout these 5 years, I've made some amazing friends, networks, alumni, amazing professors. So I thought I should seek a degree which will help me scale something of my own, build something of my own, or find my co-founder, and just put me in a position where entrepreneurship degrees are the teachers are mostly VCs, or there are people coming in from the Bay Area. So I thought I can just leverage it for the goals that I have ahead in my life.
So the
So
whole idea
that
of entrepreneurship was not only just to start something for yourself, but
yeah,
also to build the foundation in terms of the
yeah,
networks, in terms of the coaching and the mentoring that you get from industry people. Because that I think is a
absolutely.
big distinction, right? People go to an MBA for a job more often than not, but they go for a program like this because they intend to build at some point in time. Now, when it comes
Yeah,
to building, you had these ideas about your own wellness, beauty
yeah,
related startup. You worked through
yeah.
the essays with that mindset as well. What exactly did you learn about yourself in this journey, right? Something
Okay,
that you
so
realized through
right,
writing these essays, through these reflections.
yeah,
Talk a little bit about that element about, getting ready to apply to these programs.
so after we got done with shortlisting the programs and regions, I think the next step that we discussed and went forward with was essays. So I think what you suggested me was to write down what I want from myself, short-term goals, long-term goals. So that is when I actually sat down and thought, oh, this is what I want to do. Like I already knew I want this degree, but uh, writing these essays, they made me think of what I actually want and what I will be doing immediately after the degree, and not just rainbows and sunshines version of what
Yeah,
I
exactly.
want to
Because we
do.
have to match it a lot with what the school will
Yeah,
bring to you,
yeah,
what kind of capabilities, right? And I remember tweaking it for Imperial, telling you, hey, you know
yes,
what, you got to keep your finance hat
yes,
on
yes,
here
exactly.
rather than just the core beauty
Yeah,
hat, right? Even for Edinburgh, etc., right? How do
yeah,
you talk about your creative elements? So for each school, you had to tailor it a little bit.
exactly.
To
It was
some
all your
extent.
feedback,
Right?
honestly. I
You had a lot of tech orientation towards USF. I remember the data
Yeah,
analytics work that you've done with Siemens in your internship was another element for you to kind of keep in mind also, correct? So
right.
thanks for that, right? But like through this, of course, then came the interviews. How was that experience
Yeah,
in terms of prepping to giving it to anxiety
yeah.
around the interviews as well?
Right. Just a second. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'll just ask someone to close the door.
sure.
Okay, so yeah, what I would like to add on the essay front is so when I wrote it down, it was very premature, and or my version of what I thought things how things work while applying to a college. I think it was majorly your feedback that actually did the job. You know, you asked me to tweak it in a certain way. I couldn't have done it myself, and that was also one of the major reasons why I wanted to work with a consultancy essays. And I think that part was the most important in any application, and couldn't have done without all any of your feedback. So because we had to tweak, I think, every essay, and majorly for technically demanding schools like University of San Francisco, and I think even for Ivy Leagues, Brown, we tweaked it a lot. The whole idea had to be changed. So I just liked how you would always encourage me to keep my central idea and tweak it according to the needs of the school and how my profile fits into the school. That. And sorry, what was the question after that? It kind of
No,
slipped my mind.
the interviewing element. That was
Yeah, the
the
interview. So I think the interview was for Berkeley, and yeah, there were two interviews. One was from the French part of the
same as
school,
we said,
and
yes. Yeah.
Berkeley interviewed me as well. So the interview prep was majorly what the interview was majorly what you said that would be in the interview. You mentioned a certain questions, like this is how the interviews go usually, and there was also the prep tool from LilacBuds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it helped me quite a lot. I could
No, I
get
think the
through.
whole
I
prep
got a
tool now, you tell me from a communication standpoint, this is, I think, one of our core strengths is keeping the communication very, very tight with our applicants, right?
yeah.
What was your experience like in terms of, the communication that happened with you
So it
throughout the
was
journey?
right throughout the journey from I think from day one it was really smooth. I don't think I have had any problems reaching out to you anytime during the day. And sorry, I've also troubled you on your off days, that I know. So yeah, I have never had trouble reaching out to you, and even the dashboard is really smooth. I could just track down. I had it pinned so that I could just easily track down where I'm applying, and everything was just like in a one go. And even I like the AI summary the most after the
Hmm.
meeting, because
Yes.
I would usually forget what we spoke. Like even I would note down, but then a detailed summary usually worked wonders for me. So yeah, it was very detailed,
Yeah,
brief,
and I think
and even
it keeps you going, it
right.
keeps you organized. The AI summary ensured that you are on top of all your deadlines. I rarely
Yes.
remember if there was any panic across any deadlines, maybe
No,
one
no,
or
no.
so, but
Never.
broadly we were always ahead of time. Uh,
Right.
and even with all the pressure of meeting a bunch of deadlines that you had back to back, there was still, I think,
Yeah.
enough time for you to complete it without sweat,
Yeah.
like not like last day, last minute, last hour kind
Yeah.
of panic was going on. And
And
even
thanks to
for
your reminders, I could make all the applications in time, because I am pretty sure I used to delay, procrastinate. Maybe I'll send it to you, and you were always there to remind me, like, you have to send this, don't forget, or
yeah,
else we are going to be in trouble. But we never were, thankfully.
the only challenge that you really had was getting your recommendation letters from all your teachers, man.
That was crazy. Yeah.
That was the craziest part of the whole application. Getting them to sign off on a timely basis was
Because Again, that too, like apart from essays, I think you all also helped me to get through with the LORs, because they had certain standpoints, no, tweak it, first iteration, second iteration, and then we all were brain wrecked at that point, I think.
Yeah, yeah, they wanted it so small, and I was like, if
Right.
you don't cover the points that you need to get covered in the recommendation, it wouldn't bring out the skills and strengths that you've demonstrated
Yeah,
both
exactly.
in and outside the classroom. So just because the school had this insistence that, keep it to one page, we had to do a lot of tweaking for a couple of times. All right, but irrespective,
Yeah,
moving on, I think overall today, if you were to look back at your whole journey, what would be the one
yeah.
thing that you would tell applicants who are starting next year, looking at a program like entrepreneurship, looking at US, France, those kind of countries, master's programs, in terms of
Right.
picking, yeah, in terms
Yeah,
of
of course.
picking their timeline, in terms of picking the programs, in terms of working with a consultant, what would be your takeaways for them?
So my really first advice would be to actually have a team who is there to guide you, and is just there to remind you, support you, guide you through your decisions, and tell you when there is your thought which is not going right, or which won't give you outcomes in the future. And if there is a school that you really want to go to, but then it is very easy to get confused again, that like I've repeated before, because you are not sure, you're all over the place, like I should go here, I should do this, I should do that, there is a lot. So you think that you can handle it yourself, and some people really do, but then it is really nice to have a team supporting you. It You are already very overwhelmed, and you don't have to be any more overwhelmed than you are. So I would highly recommend getting a consultancy, because it
Oh,
is very easy and smoother. The entire process becomes direction and very monitored.
correct. That's true. And the teamwork, always a second pair of eyes, makes sure that you're not veering
Yeah,
off the major path and achieving your outcomes.
yeah,
So now USF is where you're going. You have started
yeah.
your I-20 process now,
Yes, yes.
and getting ready for this August to
Right.
fly out at
I,
some point.
yeah.
So what are you most excited about joining at USF, and why do you think USF was the best fit for you?
So I had something in the mind that either the brand name should be really amazing, that is why I'm waiting on Brown, or the location should be really amazing. And as far as the rankings go, I have seen USF's entrepreneurship program has been ranked really good, and it gives me an access to be in the Bay Area. So the whole point of starting your own thing is to have amazing people around you who motivate you. And what better place could there be other than San Francisco to start your own thing? Even if I don't do it immediately, I know people around me would be doing something or the other that I
Yeah,
would either want to join, or
correct, correct.
replicate, or just just a motivation factor. So
Yeah, the
USF
startups that are
is
there
that.
working on something exciting, cutting edge, maybe bringing it back to
Yeah,
India, starting off your own thing in line
yeah,
with that, all possibilities that you can explore
yeah.
there.
I just wanted to be in that environment, and USF is an amazing location, amazing program, and since because of its proximity to the Bay Area, 90% of the guest lecturers are from the Bay Area, who
Yeah,
have their own thing. So it is not like you are in a traditional setting where it's all theoretical and you're just doing your thing. You actually get to know how things went wrong for a certain individual, because they have gone through the entire process of starting their own thing, maybe
mm,
even two or three failed startup before they actually could
mm.
succeed. So that was my motivation to go through with USF.
All right, cool. Thank you, Sakshi, so much for taking the time to do the testimonial with me
Of
today.
course.
Once again, we wish you the best for the new journey that starts off this August. And, I'm pretty sure we'll have exciting news to follow from you on
Yes,
your LinkedIn in terms of what
of
you are up
course,
to, what kind of projects you are, killing it at out there. And,
of
keep
course.
making new connections and, stay in touch.
Thanks a lot, you do, and the major chunk of the credit goes to you all. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. That
Yeah,
combination.